Hi, my name's Emily Priestcorn, and today I'm going to talk about count nouns versus mass nouns, how they're different, and what that tells us about humans. So a count noun refers to a bounded individual object, like an apple, whereas a mass noun refers to a substance that doesn't have its own boundaries, like applesauce. And this class of words helps us think about and talk about matter. But what's interesting is that the nouns are not consistent across languages. Just because something's a count noun in English doesn't mean it's necessarily a count noun in, say, Italian or French. And the reasoning behind that is because the mind is very, very flexible, and it's able to construe any object as either a mass noun or a count noun. And if you really think about it, that's not too surprising. Any mass noun, magnified to a certain degree, will eventually become a collection of bounded individual particles. But just because that's true of all objects doesn't mean it's necessarily useful for us to refer to all objects in that way. Sometimes it's more useful for us to think about applesauce as being an unbounded entity that you can sort of divide and put back together, and it doesn't really change because that's how we're interacting with it. But there are other objects where it's not as useful to do that, where count nouns make far more sense, because you can tell exactly where one individual starts and one individual ends. And then there are other objects where it's not quite as obvious, like hair. Sure, you can find an individual hair, but how useful is it really to talk about your hair as a collection of individual hairs, as opposed to a conglomerate that you use in one fashion? And that's where we get differences in languages.